Hi everyone, and welcome to the book Refuge, and welcome to my character profile of Roger Jeremiah Wakefield MacKenzie. So the way that this is going to go, this is a series that I have been wanting to start, but I've been very nervous to because number one, I'm not a researcher. This isn't going to be every single detail of Roger. This is more going to be a discussion vehicle for us, either here in my comment section, or if you join down below, you will see the link to my Discord where I have Outlander channels, one dedicated to book spoilers and one dedicated to TV show spoilers and discussions. So whichever one of those is going to be best for you, I intend for this to be a vehicle to discuss Roger and eventually the other characters that I do profiles on. So I decided to start with Roger for a couple of reasons. One, upon this reread, he was in my top 3 favorite characters during the reread that I've done this past 6-7 months. And I just wanted to give him some attention and some love because I feel like in the book community people are pretty warmed up to him, but where there is either crossover or people who've just watched the show, they don't give Roger the love he deserves, partly because the show doesn't give him the justice he deserves and he just doesn't get enough screen time for you to fully see that. Where in the books, Roger is actually the second POV character we ever get after Claire. We are introduced to a new timeline through the eyes of Roger, and he is a pivotal part of our story. He is the reason that Claire gets Jamie back. She wouldn't know he was alive, let alone when she went back to him, if not for Roger. So he is crucial to their love story. He's crucial to their future family, and I feel like he doesn't get the love that he deserves. So the way that this video is going to go, the first part, I'm going to go through a brief overview of him up to where we currently are, really small bullet points. And then I'm going to talk about some of my favorite scenes with him and what I think they say about his character and who he is. Like I said, I'm not planning for this to be one of my huge hour and a half long videos. I want it to be a discussion. I want you guys to share what you love about him or to ask questions or to go over details and theories. And I don't necessarily want to provide all of that. I just want to be a starting off point because I want to talk about Roger. I want to find other people who are Roger fangirls and boys and appreciate him for the man that he is. So first off, just know that I have my notes right over here. So if I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm looking over at these notes because I wrote up a couple pages on him and that's just the bullet points. So let's go ahead and dive into this. But before I do, like I said, I have a Discord down below where you can join. We talk about Outlander pretty much daily. You will get to vote on which topic I do next. You get to help give me ideas for videos you want to see, and we just have a more intimate relationship than you will just being in my comment section. But that being said, I see every single comment that gets posted. I'm still small enough where you all mean something to me, and I would love to talk more about this. So let's go ahead and dive into Roger Jeremiah Wakefield MacKenzie. Okay, so he was born to Marjorie and Jerry MacKenzie in either 1940 or 41. We actually don't have an exact birthday for him from the research that I've done. He is 6'3". He has black hair and green eyes. He was adopted by his great uncle, Reverend Reginald Wakefield, when his father disappeared, and a few years later, his mother died in a tube accident. More on this later. He grew up in Inverness, Scotland, the child of said Reverend, and who was also a part-time historian. He learned the Gaelic from fishermen in the area, and he treasures that part of his heritage. He went to school to become a historian, and we first meet him in a significant way as a POV character in Dragonfly and Amber in 1968. He is going through his father's things, his adopted father, after he has died, when he meets Claire and Brianna Randall, and they come to pay their respects. Brianna and Claire happened to be on a tour of the area when they heard that the Reverend had died, and Claire stops in to pay her respects. They are supposedly just there for sightseeing, but it becomes clear that Mrs. Randall has a bigger revelation in mind, and soon Roger is swept away by her crazy story of time travel and her past in Scotland and the life of James Alexander and Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser, and also he takes a liking to Brianna Randall, who is this fiery Amazonian woman who gives him fluttery feelings, and he's willing to do many crazy things for her, including look into the theory of time travel. And when he is actually able to prove that Jamie lived after Culloden and Claire actually makes it through the stones and back to him, he and Brianna begin to court and date over the next few years, because Brianna really has no one now that her mother is gone. And Claire even kind of sowed the seeds to make that happen a little bit, so she knew her daughter would be taken care of when she left. Eventually, Brianna finds out some information about her parents' deaths, information that Roger himself had found but kept a secret because he feared that she would go back in time, which she does, and he's forced to follow her based on his love for her, as well as he wants to make sure that she's okay. And he knows that he can time travel as well. This leads to untold heartache for both of them, both through miscommunication and the dastardly hands of Stephen Bonnet, who messes with the MacKenzie Frasers and their future in many horrible ways, including robbing and beating up Jamie and Claire, raping Brianna, causing problems for Roger. He's just a horrible guy. We hate him. Roger catches up with Brianna in America of the past, so I believe it's 1769, 68 is about the time when they meet back there. Roger catches up with Brianna in America of the past, but their hand-fasting bliss doesn't last long when she leaves him after finding out he already knew said secret and kept it from her, and then she is promptly raped by Stephen Bonnet when she takes passage on his ship to find her parents, and this leaves doubt as to who the child she now carries belongs to. Roger doggedly follows after her, and in doing so runs into Jamie Fraser, but the man, the myth, the legend promptly thrashes him and sells him to the natives as punishment for taking his daughter's maidenhead, which Roger admits that he did, not knowing that there was someone else who was there at the same time. And Bree never really made that clear to Jamie, and then there's miscommunication, and it's a whole horrible thing, and Roger admits that he took her maidenhead, which just makes him look even more guilty. Brianna, this is bad. So he is sold to the Mohawk and is eventually rescued by Jamie, Claire, and young Ian, the last of which trades himself for Roger in penance for what he's done, selling him into slavery. Roger had actually killed a Mohawk, so he was going to be kept in trade for that life he took, and young Ian steps in. It's very touching. It breaks your damn heart, but young Ian is well prepared to take this on. He was already very interested in the Native American culture, and he goes for it. So after being saved, he hears about what happened with Brianna. He hears that there is a baby about to be born and that it might not be his, and him and Jamie go a couple more rounds with each other, and then they leave him and say, if you come back for Bree, make sure you're here to stay, because I won't have her heart broke again. She's already partially mourned you. Let it go. And by choosing to stay with her, you're choosing to possibly stay in the past forever, because we don't know if the child will be able to travel, and you're not going to make it back in time for her that you can go through pregnant. So after doing some soul searching, he makes his way back to Fraser's Ridge, and he and Brianna reconcile and decide to move forward. Roger makes a blood oath to the baby boy, who at this point is unnamed, and he claims him as his babe and goes about finding his place on the ridge. And at the end of book 4, we see him proposing to Brianna and saying that he would have stayed with her with or without the baby, that he's not doing this only out of duty, although duty is part of it, because he is a man, he is a Scottish man, and he feels that duty as well as the love and all the other feelings that Roger has. So he and Brianna marry in October of 1770 at the gathering. After a very terrible, very long day and some back and forth, they end up married by a Presbyterian minister, and their new baby, Jenn, gets baptized as a Catholic after some machinations of his grandfather. So now we get to the makings of Roger. From here on out, I just want to speak about a few things that I love about Roger, some of my favorite scenes with him, and I hope that they will spark some conversation for you. There's a few other details that I'm going to go through now too that make him really interesting, and I hope that that's where we can kind of dive in and go from there. So some other things to know about Roger. He has a very entwined, complicated past lineage with time travel that he doesn't even know about. So his relatives include Buck MacKenzie, who is the son of Galis and Dougal MacKenzie, and Galis being a time traveler who used to be Gillian Edgards, who was from the 1960s but went back in time to the 1730s. The late 1730s is when she would have got back there to try to stop the rising from going one direction other than the other. Galis, who ends up dying when Claire chops her head off for Galis trying to go to the future to get Brianna as like, use her as a sacrifice. Like, there's just so much going on with that. Roger gets to have, like, Roger is almost the perfect person to have gone back in time, in my opinion, because he is the historian, where previously, like, Bree was going to be historian in regards to, like, American history, which is really helpful because that's where they end up. But he knew almost just as much about the Scottish history, as well as he is, I just feel like there's so much about Roger that he is well suited to the past. It's just that because he's starting it so late in life that it takes him a while to get to it, and he feels like he doesn't have anything to offer. And one of the things that I love, and this gets into a lot of favorite scenes of mine, is the interactions with Roger and Jamie and how their relationship grows and arcs throughout the books. Jamie starts off pretty resentful of Roger. He doesn't even get the chance to have a good relationship because of how things start with them as well. Jamie sells his future son-in-law to the Mohawk, and you know, they don't have a chance to start things off well. And then Jamie doesn't know how to accept this man who doesn't know how to do any of the things that a Scottish man in his 30s should know how to do already. And so there's that friction of the things that Roger would have done in the future, which would have supported for him and his wife very well, being a, you know, professor. He can't do those things here. And so it leads to an identity crisis that I think makes a lot of people see him as weak. But I think that Jamie comes to appreciate that about him, that he's trying to find not only things that he can do, but the things that he can love doing. And there's time and time again where Jamie's actually the one who stands up for Roger to Brianna, or will explain things about him to Brianna, and Brianna will be like, he's my husband, he's my man, like, I understand him. And Jamie's like, you can't fully, because you're not a man. And there are things about him that I understand that you will never understand. And I love that. There's a scene like that in the Fiery Cross after Roger has been hanged through the machinations of his relative Buck, William Buckley MacKenzie, and he is struggling to find his place because he thought he found his place as like a bard. He has a beautiful singing voice. He used to play guitar and sing, and now that is gone to him. And he also doesn't have the skills of his hands, so he doesn't know what to do. And Jamie tells Bree, like, you just need to let him figure it out. Like, I know he's depressed, I know he's moping a little bit, but you need to give him time to figure out what kind of man he's gonna be. That eventually leads Roger to becoming a minister, and he works on becoming one of those in, you know, the 18th century, which is bonkers. He also is in a family of Catholics at this point, and he's a Presbyterian. And there are very few Presbyterians out on the Ridge, and so there are some, you know, there's a great like conflict within that too. But there is something amazing that Roger says, and this leads me to one of my quotes that actually one of my friends in the Discord sent me, because I asked them to send me some of their favorite things about Roger. And they sent me one of these from A Breath of Snow and Ashes, which it's one of my favorite quotes too. And he says this to Bree: whatever I'm called to now, and God knows what that is, I was called to be your husband first, your husband and the father of your bairns above all else. And that I always shall be. Whatever I may do, it will never be at the price of my family. I promise you. I love that. I love that so much. This comes at a point where Bree is struggling with him always putting, will he always have to put his parishioners in front of her? Will the wants and needs of others be more important than hers? Because she doesn't think she can be that self-sacrificing. Like, she wants to be the number one in her husband's life. And Roger wasn't even thinking of that as a thing. But I love seeing him encourage her and, push into that and be like, no, like, I want to do this. I feel called to help people in this way, but you are always going to be my number one, and everybody else can go hang at the end of the day. And I love that about him. Some other things I love about him, I love that the more time he's in the past, the more, a little more animalistic that he gets. Him and Bree have one of my favorite relationships in the books. And the reason being for me is that it is the most realistic to me. I say this all the time. Jamie and Claire are that unrealistic on a pedestal. They are perfect for each other. They know every facet of each other in a way that is just untouchable by us. Whereas Bree and Roger, they are, well, number one, they are kind of the modern couple in this because they live both in the past and in the future, in the present later on. But they really have to deal with that of like, how do we make this work? We're both these strong personalities. We both think that we know what's best. But also Bree is a little more like, Roger is an alpha beta sometimes. Like, sometimes he's the alpha and he will put his foot down and be like, no, I am the man of this family. I am the husband. This is how it is. And other times he'll be like, okay, whatever you think is best. And there's that like melding of who they are and, what they are to each other and what their family's going to be. And I love that about them. Some other aspects, I think Roger is also, I kind of got derailed from this because I was following everything, but I love watching the evolution of Jamie and Roger's relationship from that almost antagonistic point, not almost, very antagonistic point, to when Jamie asked Roger to be, sorry, the lighting changed. We had to change things up a little bit as the sun is moving around. When Jamie asked Roger to be his right hand for the Battle of Alamance, he, asked him to be his captain when they're recruiting men for battle, to when Jamie is hurt and Roger saves his life, and that in book 6 that Roger feels comfortable enough now to go to him for advice, and when they're hunting down Stephen Bonnet and Jamie realizes that, okay, this man, he places my daughter's needs above his own, and I trust him to get revenge for what's happened to my daughter. I trust him to be the father to my grandchildren, to the point that eventually when Bree and Roger go back to the future because they have a second child who has a heart defect that they need surgery in present day, that Jamie missed being able to talk to Roger Mack. Like, there's many times in books 7 and 8 where he thinks, man, I wish I could sit with Roger Mack and talk this through, or talk about the ramifications of this decision and things like that. And I think that's something that the show is completely oblivious of, that even though they gave us the obligatory Jamie got bit by the snake episode, that they focus mostly on Jamie and Claire in that episode and not on the Roger and Jamie parts that I deem to be the most important part of that interaction. Because the interaction we see with Jamie and Claire in that is still powerful, beautiful. I love this couple, but it's something that we've seen before. Like, we've seen them be this to each other before. It's just an extension and reaffirmation of things we already know. Whereas for Roger, this is him being able to do something that Jamie isn't able to do for himself. Jamie would have died out there if he hadn't been with Roger Mack. And the promises, the things that Jamie lays onto Roger, which normally he would have laid onto Ian. We haven't seen Ian in years. We don't know if we'll ever see him again. And so this book, which I actually have right here, because this is the book where I think Roger shines the most to me in just how his character grows. We needed young Ian to be gone for that, because otherwise Jamie would have had no need to turn to Roger for these things. And I feel like Roger would have become second fiddle. And so that's why I think not building that Roger and Jamie relationship enough in the 5th season And also having Ian come back early, they doubly cut that off at the knees because they didn't foster that relationship enough. In fact, we already have Ian back when those crucial events happen. Like, yes, we still get Roger and Jamie stuck together, but we already have young Ian back, and he already has opinions to share and things that you want Jamie to lean on Roger for. So to me, those are some big blunders that the show makes. And if you've watched my video where I talk about the biggest like changes that the show made that are bad, that is very high on my list because I think it leaves out the male camaraderie, which I think is important to see between brothers and family members and father-in-laws and son-in-laws. And I think that they cut that out and that it's a detriment to both characters to do that. So yeah, some other things I love seeing Roger's faith. I'm a Christian myself, and so I really love his relationship with God and how he, more than like sharing God with people, he wants to be a helper to other people. And though he will always pray if need be, he's still a doer. Like, he doesn't put everything in the hands of, oh, I'm only gonna pray about this. He will, it's like a compliment thing with him. Like, he knows that he's capable of things and he also has to put his hands to them, but he will still pray in every situation. And it's a coming together, which is what my faith is to me. Like, I will first pray and wait, but then do. Like, God doesn't always call us to only wait. You know, we need to take initiative sometimes. We can't just ask for everything to fall in our laps. You need to make moves and do things about it, you know? So let me think, what's some other ones? There's also another fabulous scene when Roger claims Henry Christian as gods and that the devil will come after these boys if they pick on Henry Christian. I love the sex between Roger and Bree. Yep, I gotta bring it up. Because number one, their sexual relationship is hard in the Fiery Cross because this isn't long after her rape, and both times there's a really great conversation that Claire and Roger have because Bree is a sexual woman. She, you know, doesn't hide from those things, but both times that she has had the sexual act happen, they were both pretty traumatic. The first one, though it was consensual with her husband, it was still her first time having sex, and it was in a barn on the hay. So even though her heart was in it, it was still pretty tough on her body. And then the next time she had a sexual experience, she was being raped. So there's this really amazing conversation between Roger and Claire where Claire's like, you need to help her retrain her wires that sex is good because she hasn't got to like have that. Like, even though she emotionally wanted to be having sex with you, it still probably wasn't the best sex she's ever gonna have because it was her first time with you. And I love how they work through things together. They have a pretty like adventurous life. So do their parents, but I just love them together. I love the descriptive words that Roger uses in his head during his sexual experiences with Bree, of just like calling her a Valkyrie or like an Amazon, and just how lucky he is to get to like be with her. And I'm trying to keep this mostly clean because I know some of you who watch this don't want me to go bananas, but next time you read a Bree and Roger sex scene, notice that most of the time it's from his POV, like most of them, because I track like who is in both, and 80% of them, the sexual scenes are always from his POV. And just look at the words he uses to describe her and the act. And their sex scenes sometimes, well, I mean, Claire and Jamie's sex scenes they're God tier. Like, if we were tiering, like, they're God tier. Their sexual scenes are all the emotions, all the feelings, even when it's quick and dirty. But when it's Bree and Roger, there's just something so, like, again, they're that attainable couple, but the way that they think of each other is just so sensual and beautiful that they're that kind of soulmate that you know you could have. Like, they're that kind of soulmate that it's like, they're not an idolized relationship to me, but they're a realistically perfect one in certain aspects. And I just adore that about them. I adore it so much. So some characteristics that I would give Roger, and I'd love for us to discuss this and what you think about him. And this is where I got some things from, I got a few things from my friends on here, is that I think that Roger is very intelligent. He's very passionate. He is faithful, loyal, loving. He's very kind. Roger gets into so many of the trouble that he gets into because he is a kind and caring person. Some of them are him just being stupid, but a lot of the trouble he gets in, trouble within his marriage even, is him being kind to people. And sometimes that makes Bree jealous when he's kind to other women on the ridge. But Roger's just like, that's what I said, is like, he's a beta in so many ways, but he's an alpha where it counts. Like, he's an alpha as in, like, I will die for my family. I will protect them first. But I just love it so much. And I feel like, too, the times when him and Bree butt heads are when he, like, asserts his alphaness, because so often I feel like he's placating of Brianna and is like, however you want to do it, like, it's fine. I don't care either way, the way you want to do it. But the times where he really, like, asserts himself is the times where they have some drama happen. And I just love that, because when Roger chooses to dig his heels in, it's always for a good reason. And I appreciate him so much. So I think he is a wonderful father. Oh my gosh, we haven't even talked about, like, that's something we talk about in the comments if you want, is all the little, like, things that come up proving that Jem probably is his son. And of course he accepts it before then, but there's stuff so beautiful. Like, one of my favorite moments is when, so Jem gets lice, and so they have to shave Jem's head just because it's the easiest thing to do. And while they're shaving his head, there's a birthmark that becomes visible, like behind his ear back there, I think. And Roger has the exact same birthmark. And so Roger looks at Claire and he's like, Claire, is that kind of stuff, is that hereditary? Because I have the exact shaped mark here. Magical birthmarks. They're a thing in royalty and Outlander books. And Claire's like, well, there's a good possibility that the exact same birthmark in the exact same place it was. And so then Roger's like, you know what? My head's feeling scratchy too. It is. And he gets his head shaved so that he can walk around and people can see that him and Jem have the exact same birthmark. And so as those signs come up over the years and it becomes more and more certain that Jem is Roger and Bree's and not Stephen Bonnet's, thank you, Goddess Diana, that you didn't do that. It's so beautiful. I think that him and Bree raised Jem and Mandy in such a, like, loving and understanding way. And I look forward to seeing, I don't know how many years these books will span. I don't know if they're gonna, like, end when the revolution is over. I don't know that. I don't know when she'll end it. Currently we're at where Roger is, I believe he's 39. I think he's 39 right now. And Jem is 8 or 9. But I can just imagine, like, what an amalgamation Jeremiah is gonna be after, like, being raised by Roger and spending time with Jamie and having all of those emotions inside of him. Like, how cool is Jem gonna be someday because of the parents that he has? It's amazing. So I wanted to keep these videos around 30 minutes, so I'm gonna stop here. Obviously, I could have talked forever, but I hope this kind of gives you a good idea of his character, some of the things I've said. I would love to talk more, either with you in my Discord or in the comment section below. Let me know whose profile you want next. I kind of know who I'm doing, but you can let me know. I'm not doing Jamie and Claire for a while because there's too much. There's too much to do, so please don't ask me to do them. I mean, they're the entire books. Roger was a good place to start for me because I feel like we can have a good discussion about him and about why people maybe don't like him. Like if you are only a book reader, or you read the books first, what were your feelings about Roger? If you were a show watcher first and then you read the books, did you dislike Roger and now you like him more? Or have you always been okay with him? Like, what are your feelings? Because I always liked Roger. I thought he was like awkward duckling in the beginning, which he is, but I never had any dislike for him until like the show started and I heard people had issues with him, and I was just mind blown because I love him, but the show, in the aspects of it, has to like synthesize things down. I feel like Roger got the short end of the stick for a lot of it. I think that he did. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. This has been my profile of Roger Jeremiah Wakefield MacKenzie. Please let me know your opinions and thoughts. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure you follow me, hit that like button, hit the bell if you want to be notified when I upload. I'm gonna have 2 to 3 Outlander videos a month is my plan for all of Outlander. I hope so. There's lots of content to keep up. I have an entire playlist that I will link at the end of this video that has all of my Outlander content if you want to catch up. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.